Hello, and welcome to the Trepid Technology Security Plus course. My name is Johnny Bandon, and I will be your instructor for this video series. In this video, we'll be going over Domain 1.1 social engineering attacks. So let's get started. The first thing we will go over is phishing. Phishing is a social engineering attack where an attacker will send a malicious link through an email to get an unsuspecting user to click on a link. Now, this link can be anything, right? This can be a link to a malicious website that wants to steal your data. This link could install malware onto the actual system or to the user's browser. And a phishing attack, the main goal is to infiltrate the network. So, through the use of this social engineering attack, we like to call phishing, a threat actor uses email as a transmission media, and they essentially fool or trick that user into clicking on something that's going to have them install malicious software. And once this malicious software is installed, it can spread throughout the entire enterprise and infect other systems. The best way we're going to want to defend against a phishing attack is obviously we have our technical controls, right? We have DLP or endpoint detection and response, which we're going to talk about. We have antivirus or any malware software. But really, a phishing attack, it doesn't attack our systems. It attacks you, the human element. So the best defense we have against any phishing attack is always going to be user awareness. So it's important as a cybersecurity professional that you implement a strong user awareness program in the enterprise, so your users do not click on the malicious link and they can recognize a phishing attempt. Next, let's talk about a social engineering attack called smishing. Smishing is a social engineering attack that uses SMS messages. Very similar to phishing, except the transmission medium for smishing will be text messaging. So instead of you getting an email, excuse my pen, you're going to be getting a text message that's going to try to get you to install something malicious. Same thing as phishing, really, except this time it's on your cell phone. Again, another way to prevent smishing is obviously to educate the users of your enterprise. Tell them not to respond to messages that they may think are not legitimate. If they don't know who's texting them, best not to respond, or definitely don't click on any links. Another way to protect your users against smishing attacks that try to steal credentials is to enable multi-factor authentication on your enterprise. Now let's talk about spam and vishing. Spam is, again, another social engineering attack similar to phishing, except not all spam emails will contain a malicious link. Spam really just describes unwanted emails or messages that will clog up your inbox. Now, spam can be filtered using email gateways, keyword blocks on that gateway, or using a DNS blacklist. What this DNS blacklist does is it blocks known malicious domains from entering your email's inbox. So out there in the world, there's an organization that puts together a list of domains that are known to be malicious in nature or known to be spam. And on your email gateway, you can actually set up this blacklist of domains so they always get blocked. And then we have vishing. Vishing is another form of social engineering, and its transmission medium is VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, or commonly just known as answering your cell phone or an office phone. The typical vishing attacks we see nowadays are scammers targeting vulnerable people and convincing them to give them money or reveal sensitive information. A common one you'll see in your enterprise is a user getting a phone call with urgency in it or intimidation saying, hey, we need you to unlock and reset this admin account to this password, or this whole system is going to go down and the company is going to lose money and it's your fault. Again, same sort of social engineering attack as phishing, just getting you to give up something malicious. And the best defense against this attack is, again, user awareness. This is why our user awareness programs in our enterprises are so important. Next, let's talk about a watering hole attack. A watering hole attack takes a little bit of reconnaissance for a threat actor to pull off. In this attack, a threat actor will note a commonly used website for a group of people. So here on our slide here, this threat actor, here he is taking some notes, saying, these users always go to test.com. Now, again, when they do this reconnaissance, this could be an organization or a specific demographic that they're going to attack. And once that attacker finds a popular website, the attacker will inject an exploit into the website. Here we see that in step 2. With the attacker will find a vulnerability in that website and inject an exploit. Here we have our exploit right there. And then once a user goes to this website, the exploit will then be installed onto the host's computer. And now the attacker has installed some form of malware onto the unsuspecting user's computer. So that exploit that threat actor injected into that website can either be some sort of virus or malware that's going to install into the user's computer once they click that website, or it could be a malicious cookie, something that's stealing information. And if someone does this on your enterprise and their system gets infected with malware, now you run the risk of infecting the rest of the enterprise. So a watering hole attack is an exploit of a popular website. Hoaxes are another social engineering attack that attempts to spread fake information. So there's really nothing surprising about this attack. It's called a hoax, and that's exactly what it is. People or organizations just spreading false information. So a hoax in cybersecurity is an email or fake virus that attempts to spread fake information. And then farming is just like a watering hole attack that targets a popular website. In a farming attack, a threat actor will redirect the user to a fake website that looks legitimate. So here we're not exploiting the legitimate website. What we're doing here is essentially just changing a URL of, let's say, like google.com, and you add an extra O in there, a common thing a user can do, and it's going to redirect them to that malicious user's website that looks like google.com, but now they could be performing any sort of attack or trying to steal your information. A lot of big companies, what they'll do to protect against this is buy up all the domains that are similar, that are common mistakes, right? So that is a farming attack. It's going to redirect the user to a fake website that looks legitimate. Whaling is a social engineering attack that's going to target high-ranking personnel in the organization. The C-level executives or a person of interest in a particular position are likely going to be attacked. Now, what we mean by the C-level executives, the CEOs, CFOs, CEOs, that's pretty self-explanatory. But a person of interest could also be a part of a whaling attack. Maybe that's the head of the IT department. And that head of IT department obviously has the keys to the kingdom when it comes to your information systems. So he may not be a C-level executive like a CTO or a CISO, but because of the position he holds, he wields power over the network. This could even be like a senior network engineer. And like all social engineering attacks, a whaling attack attempts to elicit information or steal identities, just like phishing, right? So a whaling attack could be over the phone, through text message, or through email. What makes a whaling attack a whaling attack is the individual it's targeting. And again, best way to avoid a whaling attempt is to go ahead and educate your C-level executives. Always use multi-factor authentication in case credentials do get stolen. The attacker doesn't have access to the person's cell phone for push notifications. They don't have access to that authenticator app right? So multi-factor authentication is going to protect you when a social engineer attack is successful. And then, of course, if someone's whaling through email, set up some email filtering in your organization. And now let's just go over some social engineering attacks that happen in the physical realm. So in this first picture, we see a threat actor looking over the shoulder of an unsuspecting employee. We call this shoulder surfing. So what we see here is someone trying to look at a user's computer system or screen to try to steal or elicit information. That is called shoulder surfing. Another social engineering technique that happens in the workplace a lot is something called tailgating. And no, it's not you going to the football game and drinking with your buddies. Tailgating is when a threat actor follows someone into a secure area like your top secret skiff or maybe your research and development department. A way to prevent tailgating is to have some sort of role-based access control on your physical security. Now, what do we mean by this? This could be something as simple as a badging system. This could be having RFID installed, having biometrics installed at the doors, right? Or maybe installing something we like to call a man trap, which is going to install 2 doors that people have to go through to try to stop or detect that tailgater, that threat actor. Another thing we could have is maybe even the front desk, someone that directs foot traffic in your organization. And you're going to want to place these preventative measures either in the entire building, but especially on the sensitive areas like your skiff or maybe your research and development department. The next one we're going to talk about that's labeled here is dumpster diving. So dumpster diving is another social engineering technique that attackers use to try and steal sensitive data from sensitive documents that were not properly disposed of. One way to stop this is having a good shredding policy. You want to make sure that any sensitive documents, whether they're top secret, secret, or outside the government realm, if they're private or proprietary to your organization, don't just throw them in the trash. Because people can go through the trash, and it does happen, and look at that sensitive information. So you have to ensure that as a cybersecurity professional, you put that good shredding policy in place. Next one we're going to talk about is impersonation. So when an attacker pretends to be someone of authority or in a position of power, they use impersonation. This technique allows threat actors to elicit sensitive information from unsuspecting users that may believe in that impersonation. And then we have influence campaigns. These are modern day propaganda solutions to try and influence populations through the use of social media by spreading fear and misinformation. An excellent example of this is the CCP government of China. They control all the media within their country. So now they have this tool that everyone uses to spread their influence and to take control of what can be posted on the internet. And we know that this happens even to Americans and people in Western civilizations. There's whole server farms that are dedicated just spreading misinformation on our social media feeds that live off those social media algorithms to try to always be in your face with this information. So we see influence campaigns probably daily, depending on what your feeds look like on your social media. And now the last thing we're going to go over is going to be our social engineering principles. So the social engineering techniques we will go over, these are called social engineering principles that attackers use when attempting to elicit information or gain access to a sensitive area. So yes, we will type up an email when we want to do phishing. We'll send a message when we want to do smishing. pick up the phone when we do Vishing. But we're going to use these principles in our social engineering techniques and attacks. So authority, again, is pretending to be a person of high rank or status. Scarcity is when attackers pretend to only have limited resources. So they try to invoke fear by someone or an organization not having a lot of something. So for an example, scarcity is when attackers pretend only to have a few tickets left, or maybe the victim will miss out on this great opportunity if they don't act fast. A good example of this is receiving a call from a vacation company, which I know I've received a few, saying there are only 2 spots left for this all-inclusive trip to Maui. You just need to provide your date of birth, credit card, and your social security number to be entered into the raffle, but you will win, right? That is scarcity. And then we have urgency, which is creating a sense of emergency in your victims. An example of this is a scammer calling and saying a family member is in trouble unless you cooperate with them. A lot of the times this will work against people less informed about technology and how our technology landscapes work. Essentially, people in their 70s and above, a lot of times will fall victim to a lot of these principles, especially urgency. And then we have familiarity or trust. This is when you create a sense of confidence with your victim by relating to them or impersonating someone the victim already trusts. And this can happen very easily nowadays through the use of social media. You find out some information about a person because it's public on their social media pages. And then you use that information to build trust with them in your scam call, your vishing social engineering attack. All right. So that's going to be it for Domain 1.1, social engineering attacks. I want to thank you for viewing and stay tuned for our next video where we go over Domain 1.2, different types of attacks in our enterprise. Thank you.